Welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, let's jump straight into this because today we are unpacking one of the most absolutely fascinating biographical arcs in modern business history. We are tracing the life of Morris Chang, the visionary founder of TSMC, Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company. But listen, this isn't just your standard corporate story about microchips and billions of dollars. No, this is an epic hero's journey. It is the ultimate story of a late bloomer. A life filled with devastating early setbacks, fierce corporate battles, and ultimately a legendary business strategy that quite literally built the chips powering the very device you are watching this on right now.
Morris Chang actually lived by this incredibly powerful motto, "I have a rendezvous with destiny." And he used this exact phrase at two massive crossroads in his life. The first time was way back in 1958, driving from Boston down to the totally unfamiliar territory of Dallas to join Texas Instruments. The second time, 1985, leaving a really comfortable life in the US to move to Taiwan. Both times, he just fully embraced the unknown, and both times his willingness to meet destiny head-on totally reshaped his life and honestly, the entire global tech landscape.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover his early setbacks and his time at Texas Instruments, the birth of his dedicated foundry model, his pivotal alliance with NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, how he survived major crises to reach the top, and finally, his core values and lasting legacy.
Chapter 1. Early Setbacks and Texas Instruments.
Okay, so you might assume the undisputed godfather of semiconductors was always this tech prodigy, right? Well, actually, at 18, his dream was to become a writer. But his father shattered that dream, basically warning him that as a writer, he would just starve. Then, at 24, he fails his PhD qualifying exams at MIT, not once, but twice. It was a blow that literally brought him to tears when he recalled it in his memoirs years later. And get this, at age 52, after a massive career, he finds himself entirely unemployed. He didn't even found TSMC until he was 56 years old. The crucial takeaway for us here is that his most negative, painful experiences often left the deepest marks, teaching him exactly what not to do.
The real turning point came during his time at Texas Instruments. Chang had this meteoric rise there, becoming the group general manager of their global semiconductor business. But then, disaster struck. The company leadership forced him to manage their struggling consumer electronics division, selling stuff like home computers and calculators. And Chang absolutely hated this. Why? Because by making consumer products, TI was suddenly competing directly against the very same brands that were buying their chips. This internal clash of interests frustrated him deeply, and it eventually led to him leaving the company at age 52.
Moving right along to Chapter 2, the birth of the dedicated foundry.
So, at age 54, Chang accepts an invitation to move to Taiwan to head up ITRI, which is a government-backed industrial research institute. At the time, the whole industry used what was called the IDM, or Integrated Device Manufacturer model. Basically, IDMs designed their own chips, manufactured them, and if they happened to have some spare room in the factory, they'd manufacture for others. But as we just talked about, this meant they actively competed with their own clients. When Chang looked at Taiwan's local capabilities, he realized ITRI was fantastic at manufacturing yield, but terribly weak at chip design. His brilliant solution? The dedicated foundry, a factory that only manufactures chips for others and designs absolutely nothing itself.
And this right here is the definition that changed the world. A dedicated foundry never, ever competes with its clients. Remember that painful lesson he learned at Texas Instruments? Well, it directly birthed this groundbreaking policy. By completely removing the threat of competition, TSMC was able to turn its clients into fiercely loyal, lifelong partners.
Chapter 3, the alliance with NVIDIA's Jensen Huang.
This vital alliance actually started with a simple cold email from a mostly unknown startup called NVIDIA. Back in 1998, NVIDIA had a grand total of just 80 employees. They were tiny. Yet Morris Chang saw their potential. TSMC astonishingly sent 2 expert production planners to embed with NVIDIA in the US for an entire month just to help them organize their supply chain and train their staff. That level of dedicated customer service was entirely unheard of at the time, but it secured absolute loyalty from NVIDIA's founder, Jensen Huang. And their mutual respect grew so profound over the years that in 2013, when Morris Chang was looking for a successor to take over TSMC, he actually approached Jensen Huang for the job. Jensen's legendary, incredibly brief response, "I already have a job.
This amazing anecdote just perfectly captures the incredible dynamic and deep trust between two of the most powerful men in tech today.
Chapter 4: Surviving Crises and Reaching the Peak.
Things weren't always smooth sailing, though. During the 2008 financial crisis, TSMC laid off a bunch of staff, which caused massive protests. Chang actually returned to the CEO role at age 78 to fix it. He showed immense empathy by rehiring over 2,400 dispatch workers as full-time employees, which won him deep corporate loyalty. And then, he went on the offensive. He aggressively pushed 8% of the company's total revenue straight into R&D and launched the grueling Nightingale program. This was a literal 3-shift, 24-hour R&D cycle designed to relentlessly chase down and ultimately overtake tech giants like Intel and Samsung.
Then came the ultimate test, winning over Apple. To do it, Chang had to show massive strategic flexibility. Apple specifically wanted a 20-nanometer chip. Now, TSMC hadn't planned for this at all. They actually wanted to jump straight to 16-nanometer. But Chang knew that to win Apple, you have to meet their demands, period. It was a huge disruption to TSMC's internal schedules, but they successfully navigated this 20-nanometer detour. It proved they could handle Apple's massive scale and incredibly strict demands, and that move successfully locked in a lucrative, decade-long partnership.
Finally, Chapter 5: Integrity and Legacy. As Morris Chang prepared to finally step down at age 87, it became clear that his true masterpiece wasn't just chips, it was TSMC's culture. Integrity is their absolute #1 core value. Chang attributes this directly to his parents' early teachings. For TSMC, integrity means never telling a lie, never bragging, and always keeping a promise to a client. It's this strict adherence to honesty that allowed a foundry in Taiwan to become the most trusted manufacturer for the world's most fiercely competitive tech companies.
But, there's a softer side to this legacy, too. At age 69, Chang married Sophie Chang. They are often described as each other's sun and moon. While Chang is known as a strict, no-nonsense leader in the boardroom, their marriage is built on gentle, mutual support. Sophie even temporarily set aside her own passion as an internationally recognized painter to support him while he wrote his memoirs. In turn, he deeply supports her leading role in TSMC's vast charitable and disaster relief foundations.
Now, looking at today's geopolitical landscape, Chang offers a pretty stark reality check on U.S. efforts to reshore chip manufacturing. In a Brookings Institution podcast, he pointed right back to TSMC's own experience with wafer tech in the U.S. during the 1990s. It was plagued by massive cost overruns and years of unprofitability. He warns that U.S. manufacturing costs still vastly exceed those in Taiwan, largely due to the lack of dedicated engineering talent and the necessary infrastructure.
So that leaves us with a massive, fascinating final question. Morris Chang built an absolute empire on global talent, strict integrity, and unwavering trust. As governments pour billions of dollars into reshoring chip manufacturing today, can anyone actually replicate the magic, the specific culture, and the perfect timing of TSMC? It's an incredible question for the future of technology. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gave you a whole new perspective on the true godfather of semiconductors.